So let's go ahead and start answering some of these questions. It looks like Rashna has the first question, and she's asking, hello, everyone. What is the difference between creating a coupon versus creating a percentage off promotion? In what scenario to use what? I'll let you tackle that one, Cole, while I kind of sort a couple of things out here.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, I don't know if there's really a big difference between a coupon and creating a percentage off, because a coupon, you can either do one of two things. You can create a dollar amount off. So if you wanted to do $2 off, you could do that. But another form of a coupon would be creating a percentage based. If you wanted to do 15% discount there as well. So there's kind of two different ways that you can look at how you want to implement a coupon, either from the dollar off or the percentage off. I found that sometimes one works better than the other. So definitely worth trying out both of them. Sometimes a customer likes to see that percentage off, or they like to see that exact dollar number off. So both of those are available to you within a coupon, and usually kind of recommend testing out both of them and see which one you have more success with.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Me personally, I always like to put myself as the customer, as the one that's shopping. I've always found that percentage off is more effective in terms of like the buyer's perspective, because if you think about it, when you go to Walmart or any of these like brick and mortar stores, it's always a percentage off that they use. It's never really, take $1 off or take $2 off. So when creating the coupon, what I've had most success with is a percentage off, and it's always a percentage off that's got to be a fairly high percentage, right? It's got to be 10 to 20% off, somewhere in that range, because if it's just 5%, it may not be as attractive. But I see 10%. If I see like, double digits, then I'm like, okay, this sounds like a really good deal. So that's why I say percentage off, because at least they'll be inclined and they'll be curious to kind of go that next extra step. Because if you tell them $1 off, they can immediately calculate that in their head. And typically it's just going to be a couple bucks, right? It's not going to be, $10 off or whatever the case may be. So I would definitely go with the percentage off. That would be my recommendation. Test that out. And the most effective way, because there's not one right answer to this. I'm just talking from experience and what I've found to be effective with my products, I would say, is to do a split test on both. Run an experiment of a week of a percentage off, and run an experiment of a week of $1 off. And then you can compare the two notes, and there you have your answer for your particular product. And that's really the only way to know for sure. All right, let me go ahead and see what the next question here is. Okay. Appears to be coming from Rashna. And Rashna asks, I have received an email from Amazon stating that my product listed in toys categories requires CPC certificate and ASTM F93 test reports. I had entered manufacturer recommended ages as 3 years and up. Can I change my manufacturer recommended age from back in 12 years and up to escape from this, or is it too late? That is one component that you can change. You still can change. There's a few things that you can't once they're entered, and that's typically going to be, of course, your GTIN or your UPC number, in addition to brand and your manufacturer, if I'm not mistaken. I think those are like the components that really cannot be altered once you've done so. Now, brand is kind of hit or miss. They're just going to require a lot of back and forth. Oftentimes, if you're not brand registered, they will work with you, because then you became brand registered and they can see that you've trademarked the brand. So then maybe prior you were just using like a different name altogether. So that could be altered, but there are, the main component is definitely you cannot change your GTIN number. once it's in there, or the UPC code, and then in the manufacturer, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Cole.
No, that's a pretty technical question. I didn't really have much, so thanks for taking the lead on that one. But yeah, I think kind of everything you said as far as some of the things within your listing you can't update once you've created that listing, but this does seem like one of those ones that you can go in and you should still be able to update through the back end of your listing.
Cool. Let's take a look at the next question. Comes from Rob. Tips for preparing for Amazon Prime Day. Yeah, so if you're not aware, Amazon just announced Prime Day, and I believe it's the 21st and the 22nd. Yes, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds yeah.
What's that?
I said, yeah, that sounds right. 21st and 22nd.
Cool. Yeah. So, and it's just around the corner, June 21st, June 22nd. So there's not major things that you could do, of course. Probably like photography is going to be out of the question unless you have a family member that's a photographer. But the things definitely that you can do in preparation for Prime Day would be, I would say, your price. Make sure your product is priced right. I would also start running some coupons right now, even though it's early on. It just gives you that heads up. Start beefing up your budget of PPC. You don't want to wait till the day of, because Amazon can, in fact, start to restrict you on that. And so you want to start beefing that up now. It's not, that's not a thing that you do just on Prime Day. They're very aware and probably won't even make an impact if you wait till Prime Day. So increase those budgets maybe a couple weeks out, I would say. Doesn't have to be actually now, because today is June 3rd, so you still have a little time. Anything I'm missing there, Cole?
Yeah, I think, you said plan ahead. That's kind of the big thing. Another thing, just to make sure you have enough inventory there. Probably going to sell more than you're typically used to. So make sure you have enough inventory at Amazon. And then the other thing that you kind of touched on was like a coupon or a price. If you want to run any type of discount, I know there are Prime specific deals that you can run. I don't know what the actual time frame is on that. Usually they put kind of a limit as far as when you have to have that submitted. So I don't know if that has already been expired or if you can still create an Amazon Prime coupon for that day. But yeah, I think all of those things, have enough inventory, open up your budgets. And then if you're going to run some sort of promotion or coupon, are all things to keep in mind and to start planning for now.
And I know we have a blog post out there. So what I'll do is, in between questions, I'll try to dig that up and add that in the comments below, so that it really dissects what to do for preparing for Amazon Prime Day. So that's and I just found it, so I'll drop it in the comments.
Again.
Cool. I'll actually drop it in both threads, because I know the earlier thread is a dead thread, so now I gotta add it here.
Well, I'll take the next question while you're adding that in there. We got a question again from Rob. How to negotiate with supplier when no other suppliers manufacture this product? I guess my first question would be, does the supplier know that they're the only one that's manufacturing that product? Or is it just that's the only supplier that you stumbled across that seems like they can make the product you're looking for? Because that might give you some leverage if they don't necessarily know that they're the only one that they can make the product. I would say, though, regardless of them being the only one that manufactured or not, there's always room to negotiate. And you want to at least have that conversation with your supplier to see if they're willing to budge at all. I know from my experience, any supplier that I've worked with in the past has always been willing to negotiate, some more or less than others. But another thing is that maybe you're not able to negotiate a whole lot on your first order, but as you start to build a relationship with them and start to increase your order quantity, it's going to give you more leverage to be able to negotiate with them a bit more. So yeah, I would definitely say, even if they're the only ones that manufactures that product, still try and negotiate. You want to at least see if there's room to improve. the cost or any other variables for that before you make that first order. So just keep in mind that they want to do business too, and they're going to likely be willing to negotiate in order to get the deal done.
And oftentimes, Rob, there's break points, right? So you'll want to see what their break points are. If maybe from up to 500, it's a certain price. 1,000 units, a different price. So definitely test those break points. So I would bring that up to them, be like, hey, in this order, I want to see what would you offer if I ordered 3,000. I don't know if that's like, if your product's a hot product, you might want to order a larger batch. Sounds like you have some hot products, Rob, because Rob's one of the OGs. He's been here since we first started Freedom Builder Bootcamp, and he's on a roll. He's always got some good stuff to share with us. So let's see here. Looks like the next question comes from Rob as well, asking anyone have issues with sea shipping port congestion. My shipment is delayed by a week. So what I could say to this is absolutely. We meet the sellers at Jungle Scout. We'll meet once a month and we'll discuss current events, things that are happening. And this was one of the hot topics that was discussed, is that everybody's experiencing delays. And Cole, I think you had I think you shared a story with us about how delayed it was. It was like it was a couple of weeks out, was it?
Yeah. Rob, I'd say that if it's only been delayed a week, that's okay. It seems like all of my shipments lately have been delayed at least a week, a couple of weeks. And it's probably only going to get worse throughout the rest of the year. So just want to make sure you're continuing to order ahead of time and maybe order a bit more inventory than you were planning to bake into that extra delay and to the volume that you're going to order. So it's been pretty common right now. It's been very busy at the port, and I've definitely experienced at least a couple of weeks of delay, and you're not the only one going through that right now. It's just been a complete mess on all ends of shipping and logistics. So just got to kind of find a way to weather the storm.
Yeah. And I believe one of the things that was discussed during that time is to, consider ordering not only, for the summer months, but if you have a way to warehouse your goods, consider ordering for the holiday season. Start preparing for that, for Black Friday, for Christmas, just because we already know the writings on the wall that these congestions are almost just kind of building up, right? And as time goes on, it's not like anything is moving smoothly, and it's not right now. I mean, we've had several factors playing into this. The pandemic obviously was the starting point, but now that things are opening up a bit more, so that's improvement that we've experienced. However, you still have certain countries that have not opened up, and certain countries that and we've had lost cargo at sea with inclement weather and all this crazy stuff. The Suez Canal, blocked, any shipments coming through for, I don't know, it was like a whole week or something. They had to dig it out, excavate that one ship. So, so I would really start thinking far in advance now. We're not talking about just months out now. If you can, I mean, you got a hot product, then definitely that's what I would say. If it's a slower moving product, then no cause for alarm, but just think ahead.
Yeah, I'd much rather be overstocked. If the product sells well, I'd much rather be overstocked to make sure I'm never going to run out versus running it tight. So definitely want to plan ahead, maybe lean on the heavier side if you can of inventory, because if your shipment gets delayed, you want to make sure you can stay in stock. So definitely plan ahead.
Awesome. So Rashna has the next question. I think it may be a follow-up on the previous question. So let me read it, because as an example, Keyword Scout shows high search volume, 2 keywords for brush and brushes. should we use both in our, oh, okay. Okay. So it's actually just one question. Should we use both in our PPC? What I like to do, I like to keep it simple. Not cold, maybe not. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see.
I like to keep it simple. So what I do is I find the kind of like the, because remember, if when I'm creating my PPC campaigns, I have my manual campaign, I'll have a broad and I'll have a phrase ad group within that one campaign. And it does take into account singular, plurals, sometimes in misspellings. So in my opinion, you don't need both. What you need is to just have a good solid base of 10 to 20 keywords and allow Amazon to sort out the rest, because it is part of what, what those, the broad and the phrase match campaign match types are all about, is to kind of like discover those additional keywords that people are searching for. Now, when you start removing some of those long tail keywords or those keywords like the misspellings and all that good stuff into an exact match campaign, now then it does matter. But in your broad and your phrase match campaign, your discovery campaign, as I like to call it, remember your automatic campaign and your broad campaign with the broad with your broad and your phrase match, your manual campaign, I should say, those two are your discovery campaigns. And then your third campaign is, where you're putting all your winning keywords.
Yeah, I agree. For the exact, pretty much when you have a word in your exact campaign, Amazon's going to only show up an advertisement for that exact spelling of the word. The one exception is where maybe there's like a plural version of that word where you just have an S at the end of the word. So let's say, for example, like your exact search term is the word picture frame, or the words picture frame. So that's singular. But if you had a customer type in picture frames, so there's just an S at the end of that second word there, likely your exact search term is still going to register for when you just have that S. But I think for your example specifically, there's actually the ES for the plural. So I don't know how Amazon's system totally recognized that. For that kind of example, I would say, yeah, you probably want to have both of those in your exact campaign. Usually play it safe if you want to show up for both of them, just to make sure there's no decisions left up to Amazon. I would have those specific words in there if you're looking at an exact campaign.
Yeah, and that's why I say that there's not one way to do PPC, and there's multiple ways to get to arrive at the the goal that you have. So it won't hurt you to have them
right
in there. So just to answer, I guess it won't hurt you to have them in your PPC campaigns. It's just a matter of don't get too crazy with a whole lot of keywords inside of your PPC campaigns, because that becomes, I mean, you're allowed up to 1,000 keywords. Let me put it that way, so that you can target on your PPC campaigns, and that's per ad group. So if you're putting in 1,000 here and 1,000 there, just imagine the nightmare that you've created for yourself to have to monitor, and imagine your budget has to be allocated to each of those keywords. So that's why it has to be spread out, and Amazon's trying. It's going to try all those keywords and test them, even the duds. And so that's why it's important that less is best when it comes to PPC, and then you could build on it. You start small, and then keep adding keywords. But as Cole mentioned, definitely it doesn't hurt your campaign if it's just a variant of the main keyword that you're trying to target. All right, looks like Angela has the next question. She asks, I've listed my product in Canada and Mexico with Amazon's remote fulfillment. Should the listing, including the star ratings, transfer from the USA? The new Canadian listing also shows 3 units available and 1 unit unfulfillable, even though I just opened the listing. Is this right?
So I think I just saw something recently that they are no longer transferring your star ratings and reviews across different marketplaces. I know in the past, it was always a thing. Your reviews would transfer with you to different marketplaces, but I'm pretty sure, and Rolando, I don't know if you've heard anything about it, but I thought I heard either it's in the works or it's already kind of taken place where they're not transferring your reviews and your ratings to the different marketplaces. So you kind of got to start back off, like from the beginning with your reviews there. As far as the units showing as available, I would think once you've turned on the remote fulfillment, you should have units or inventory that's available in Canada, or Canada or Mexico for your customers to buy. It usually doesn't take any time really. It's just a matter of they're still going to keep your inventory in the US, and they're just going to fulfill in both of those marketplaces with that inventory. So it's not like they need to ship it to that country and then it becomes available. It should be available right from the inventory that you have inside of the US. So I think as far as those units showing available, that shouldn't be an issue. That sounds right to me.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I think in a previous coaching call you mentioned that someone was already selling the product. So it's possible that your listing was quote unquote hijacked, and so they probably have a few units that they're doing that are available, right? And so that's where you're getting that read. But it's nothing to be alarmed if it's just 3 units. That's like let them sell them off and don't be worried. I always talk about this, that it's kind of the nature of the game, right? If you offered it at a discount, someone scooped it up at a cheaper price, they're just trying to make a quick buck, and just sell off those units and let them sell off and move along.
Yeah, that's common. People are trying to. I've found that on Amazon Canada quite a bit, where you'll go on there and you'll see your product on there and you're not even selling on that marketplace, and people trying to make a few bucks. It could be drop shippers trying to resell your product for a bit more over there as well. So if it's only a couple of units, there's really no reason to be worried about that.
And if the problem persists, then definitely that you'll want to look into it deeper. You'll want to push back on that. And I know you talked about this last week as well, Angela, about someone that you reached out to someone and you were able to handle that. So familiar with the process, but for a few units, I wouldn't be so concerned. It's just a matter of if someone did hijack your listing and now they're actually not even selling your product. So that's the challenge, right? If someone's not selling your product, then that's when you want to take it upon yourself. So oftentimes in those situations, you would buy, or you would have that unit sent back. You'd have some units sent to you. You could easily do this through Seller Central and see, kind of like inspect, make sure that it is in fact your product. If not, then you take that next step. All right. Then Angela has the next question. Looks like, do you have any tips on how to scale with the current restock limits? I will say that the restock limits are gradually improving. And I would say tip number 1 is definitely keep your IPI score high. The higher your IPI score, the more that Amazon opens up to you. Lenny was telling us recently that with the $1 million case study product of the pea pads, that within the sell-through rate was incredible, that Amazon lifted the restriction that he had of the 200 units, and ultimately I think he was able to get the full 1,000 minimum order quantity that he had re-upped to Amazon. So it's just a matter of definitely keeping your IPI score high, and then Amazon will work with you in terms of lifting any restrictions. And if all else fails, if you're in a situation where you still have a restriction, I'll let Cole take over from there. I don't want to talk forever.
You took my answer, Rolando. No, I think Yeah, IPI score is like the biggest thing. That's going to tell Amazon how well you do managing your inventory. So don't want to be overstocked. You don't want to be understocked. And you want your inventory to sell quick. The sell-through rate is basically how quickly you go through the inventory that you have at Amazon. So you want to make sure you're turning over your inventory quick. You want to stay in stock. And that's going to hopefully gradually increase the limit that Amazon gives to you. It's difficult as a new seller, but typically if you manage your inventory well and as time goes on, they start to open up that restriction a bit. So I would just say keep at it, keep, shipping inventory in like a reasonable amount, meaning you're going to stay in stock, but you're not over shipping to Amazon. And if you're continuing to sell well, that should hopefully get your IPI score to improve. And then you should be at a point where you can scale, you can continue to send in new products or additional inventory, and it'll make it a bit easier for you in the long run.
And I'll add to that Cole and I, we do this. We have a third-party logistics company. So if you have the ability to work with a third-party logistics company, now it's hit or miss because it just depends. That's why I can't just name one and say, hey, go with them, because who I'm working with might not, they might have an inventory requirement and a sell-through rate requirement. And so using a third-party logistics company will help you be able to ship as much quantity as you want to their warehouse directly. And then from there, you could kind of piecemeal it into Amazon. They're not some that's another thing to keep in mind. Some third-party logistics companies would rather fulfill for you because that's where they make their real money, right? And so they frown upon warehousing and then shipping to Amazon like in increments, but then others are fine with that. So that's why it's just doing the homework, vetting several. I'll say that I use ShipMonk, so it's worth looking into ShipMonk and see how they work. But I do know that they kind of frown upon the whole sending it to Amazon by piecemeal. But the reason I use ShipMonk is it allows me to use like multi-channel, right? And not just Amazon, but you could sell through Walmart, you could sell through eBay, and so on and so forth. So that's the beauty of a third-party logistics company. It's a hub. You send all your product. As you grow and scale, then you can open up other channels that potentially might be beneficial to your product. So if we're talking about scaling, that's the ideal play. That's the ideal play. And then, or of course, some people have done this. One of our colleagues, she's renting out some space. She's leasing some space and she's storing her goods in a warehouse. So if you have that ability, that's another option. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, Angela, you don't reside in the United States. So then the alternative would be, the best alternative for you would be a third-party logistics company. All right. Let's see here. So Angela asks, at the moment, all my returns are sent back to Amazon. I'm thinking about using a third party to manage my returns and check them before returning them to inventory. Okay. If I have all Amazon returns sent to them by customers, do I have to pay the shipping fees? I asked this question last week and Brian was going to get back to me. I have not heard. Yes, Angela, I remember you asking that question. So let me think this one through, because it looks like it's a two-part question. I don't know if you have.
I'm trying to. So I think the first part is if I have all Amazon returns sent to them by the customer. So if the customer makes a return and you're selling it through Amazon FBA, they're going to send the return back to Amazon first. I don't think there's any way to have the customer send it directly to your your third party that's going to manage the return. So I think step one is when a customer is going to return a product that they bought from you and you're selling through FBA, it's going to have to first get shipped back to Amazon. And then from that point, that product is going to be, if it's decided that it's going to be, returned for you to inspect, at that point, Amazon will send it to you or to your third party for it to then be inspected. It is fairly cheap for Amazon to do that. I think when you have it's not a disposal, but like whatever the term is, removal order, and they take that inventory and they send it back to you. It's only like 50 cents a unit. It does take a while, but it's very cheap in the long run. And ultimately you're going to find a lot of good inventory out of that. There's a lot of times a customer will send a unit back and it's still in perfect condition. So I would say, I think you definitely have to have the inventory sent back to Amazon before it gets shipped to you or to your third party. And then at that point, if you're sending it to yourself to inspect, it's going to be about 50 cents per return. I would double check that number, but I know it's right around that range. It's pretty cheap. So I've never personally used a third party to manage my returns and to inspect it, just because I kind of like to control that part. I feel like only I know my product well enough to be able to inspect it and know if it's still in good condition. But I would definitely recommend, that's going to save you a lot of time. I've looked into this in the past and never actually taken the plunge to do it, but I know I've considered finding somebody who can do this because it is time consuming. And I think Rolando, you just mentioned that she might not live in the US. And if she's selling in the US, obviously there's no way for you to ship that inventory back to you. So I'd recommend find a third party, see if they can repack it for you and send it back into Amazon, because a lot of customers on Amazon just naturally are going to return their product. And if you're just taking that inventory and then throwing it out, there's going to be a lot of lost dollars really for no reason. So see what you can do with that. And if you can get a system in place to minimize the expense there, I think it's definitely going to be worth it in the long run.
And my gut tells me, Angela, that yes, you would have to pay that using the third party right now, much like Cole, I have my product returned to Amazon. And if it's a product that I'm not so concerned, I just have them either just ultimately remove it altogether. But of course, if it's something that's like, it's a higher price point product and you want to be able to inspect it, then I know that third party logistics companies can do that as well. I know Shipmonk offers the service. And what they do is they would have the product come to them, but the product, that would be a cost to you to have it shipped to them directly. So they do offer that service, and it is something that can be done. And my gut tells me that you're going to pay it. And what I'm going to do is I just actually screen captured your question because I want to give you a solid answer. Like, I don't want to rely on my gut. I want to make sure that I have the right answer. But yeah, that's pretty much how that works. Is you're responsible at that point if you're having them go direct to Shipmonk. In addition to that, Shipmonk, if they're looking to, if you're kind of like in batches trying to ship it back to Amazon, you're responsible for that cost as well. So something to keep in mind, that it is going to increase your cost. Alternatively, if it really isn't a financial strain, then either just have create removal orders, and you can make that automatic as well. You could just make I would strongly recommend that anything that needs to be removed because the customer opened the product and it's deemed that it's not sellable again, then make it automatic. That part you could have go to and it's going to be the cost of a removal order. It's not going to be the cost. So you could have it go directly to your third party company that will inspect the product. So that would be the alternative. Have it go directly. You're going to save a little bit there, but then you're going to have to repackage and send. You're going to have to pay. So yes, you do pay with removal orders, but it's not as much as if you were like regular shipping. And so that's what I would suggest, is to kind of go through that path. Have Amazon automate that process. They'll ship your goods, and then you just have to figure out how you want to batch it. You don't want to be doing it at every time. Like you probably might want to they could probably palletize it for you and then ship it in as a pallet. Or somehow work that out with your third party logistics company or your third party whoever they are, and just kind of work in batches. That's going to save you a lot of money versus just like piecemeal. So now that I thought it through, yes, you will be paying. I don't even have to
Yeah.
rely on my gut. I just kind of have to think through the question. I was like, okay, what's happening? I put the pieces together. It's going to go to Amazon. You automate that process, automatic removal orders, and then for the address, you could dictate the address. So it would probably be like in my case, it'd be my company / Shipmonk. They receive it, and at whatever warehouse, they have warehouses in different locations. But you might, put it at like a central location. Maybe if they have a Texas office, Texas, have it shipped to the Texas warehouse. They inspect it, they do their thing, they repackage it, maybe hold on to it for a little bit, see if there's any more that come in. Maybe like once every 2 months, ship it back in to sell. That would be the process. But you wouldn't pay as much by having it as an automatic removal order, if that makes sense. I think it's like 50 cents, something like that. If I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken,
somewhere around there, I thought.
per item. All right. So yes, there is a fee, but it's not an exorbitant. It's not like you're paying, regular mail by weight. All right. Let's see here. So now we're getting to the live questions, it looks like.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Rob asks, could you please explain the liquidation removal option? So when you liquidate through Amazon, essentially what you're doing is it's a cost savings, right? It's going to save you in the long term if you're about to get hit with a long-term storage fee. Those long-term storage fees are no joke. You do not want to get hit with a long-term storage fee, and they just keep going up. I think after a year, they keep going up every month. So it's like they definitely want you to take some action and do something with that number, that unit that's like over a year that's just kind of been sitting there. So I don't know if you're at that stage, if that's what's happening, but I'm just trying to paint a picture of like when you probably might want to liquidate a portion of your goods or like a batch of your goods. And what happens is it's basically, it goes back to Amazon, or it stays at Amazon, but Amazon now takes ownership of it, and they sell it. So you'll see like your product. Let's say you just continue to, because for whatever reason that first batch you just weren't running PPC, something happened hypothetically that like there wasn't a whole lot of sell through. Well, you'll see your listing and you'll see Amazon is like a secondary seller on your listing. But typically what they do is also what they might do is come in and they'll put it on their deal page. They actually have a page specifically devoted to these kinds of deals that will, so like for them to kind of recoup the storage costs and things like that. So that's usually how that works. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add. If there's any alternatives to that you might know, Cole.
No, I think that's about it. Yeah, Rob, I don't know if you're at a point for the long-term storage fees, but you definitely want to avoid that. They can be pretty costly. So no, I think that's about all I got to add.
All right, let's see here. Let's go ahead. Now you could go in that's an option. Go into Amazon and find some of these products that have been liquidated and buy them yourself. They'll sell them in batches. So it's like a retail arbitrage method that you could use. Now, granted, if they're on their liquidation site, there's a reason why you might not want to go in there and buy them, right? Like people aren't buying them, but it might be a hot seller on eBay. It might be a hot seller like on different channels. So it could be a strategy that you use for that. So food for thought. All right. Wow. We're getting to the tail end of this here, Cole.
Sure. Knocking them out.
Let's see here, unless I'm missing something, but.
Looks like the rest of them are from Rob. So tackle any one of them. So we got one from Rob. Says, when do you think is the last day for a shipment to arrive for Amazon to process your inventory for Prime Day? So it's the 21st and the 22nd. I would say probably a week before at the latest, a week before the 21st. You want to make sure your inventory is probably arriving at Amazon a week before. That way it gives a few days for your inventory to disperse amongst the other fulfillment centers. So if you can do it now, I'd do it now. I would plan ahead. You only have about 3 weeks at this point. But yeah, you'd want to get inventory there at least like a week before. If it's a 5 to 7 days, I'd say would be the minimum, just because it takes a while for them to get your inventory around. And you just kind of want to give a couple of days of buffer while that's being done. So make it happen as quickly as possible. But if you're backed up against a timeline, I'd say shoot for at least a week before that date kicks off.
Let's see here. Trying to find the most recent ones, but
I know, I think we kind of started going from the bottom, but it looks like it's all right. We're still getting to them.
So you answered, when do you think is the last day for a shipment to arrive for Amazon to process your inventory for Prime Day?
Yeah, just did that one. So maybe we can do the
next one would be, any solutions to help out with cash flow? Any recommendations that you would have there, Cole?
Yeah, a couple of things. So there's a company called Payoneer where you can basically set up a bank account with them, and how it works is you have to have your Amazon disbursements that they pay out go to that bank account, but based off of that, they give you certain lending options as far as they kind of look at the amount that you're getting paid out every 2 weeks, and from that they give you certain lending options with an interest rate and all that that you can kind of lean on to get you through any ups and downs in cash flow. So if you need to pull on money, they're going to have that offer extended to you at any point that you want to pull on it. So if you don't need to pull on it, you're in a good position. But if you do, what they do is basically, I think they have a few different options for the lending, a 30-day, a 90-day, and it's pretty much specific for Amazon sellers. So that is one option you can do. Amazon also has a lending service through Seller Central where I think you need to be contacted for it. I don't think it's available to anyone, but if you're at a certain point in your business where Amazon reaches out for you to give additional capital or lending, that is another option as well. I know that one's pretty common. So I'd recommend looking at both those options. Payoneer is a good one. Amazon lending, if you're at a point where they're going to reach out to you to take advantage of that. So I think those would be the two good things. Use your credit cards as well. Pay them off, but use your credit cards to plan out payments and everything to get you by from month to month, because cash flow is a big thing when you're scaling. So you want to make sure you're on top of that and have as many resources available to you so you can get through that.
All right. Let's go ahead and see next questions. I'm trying to lower my costs. I optimize my bids every 3 days for the past 7 days, 7-day data. I'm thinking I might have too many keywords in my campaigns. Any tips? So typically what happens when you have several keywords, we were talking about this earlier, just think about Amazon's algorithm. It's trying to cycle through all your keywords. And so yes, it ultimately can hurt your campaigns if you have too many keywords. So one way to mitigate this is to go in and I would just really start either shutting off the poorest performing keywords, or altogether going in and lowering them to the lowest threshold, which is 20 cents. If I'm not mistaken, 20 cents is the lowest you can go. So if you could get a conversion on, a very low budget, typically you're not going to win the bid at 20 cents, but there are some times where you'll be surprised and you'll win the bid and and it converts and you get this like a sale, like a sale for 20 cents, on the dollar. So it's like, so that would be a way to go in and optimize and kind of start like lowering, getting rid of some keywords that may not be performing as well. Now, it doesn't hurt to go in and pause those campaigns and ultimately create a whole new campaign, just because that's going to cause a lot of confusion and you're going to lose track of what you've done and your strategy. To me, what I like to do is if something isn't working exactly the way I planned it out, when I first started, let me put it this way, when I first started selling on Amazon and doing PPC, I was one of those guys that's like, oh, I get 1,000 keywords that I can target. I went in and Keyword Scout, downloaded the entire list of the most searched keywords, and I just dropped them into Amazon, and I'd get the little red error message sometimes like, hey, you've exceeded. So I just go in and delete what I could get away with. And then I realized, I'm like, oh my God, I just created an entire, like a nightmare for myself. So then what I did was and this is exactly what I'm telling you now, Rob, is I paused those campaigns, the ones that were not performing as well, and that I really wanted to bring the ACoS down. And I just started from scratch. But this time I had some good keywords that I could focus on because of course I've already been running some PPC. So I kind of know which keywords are good performers. And now I drop those into a manual campaign. And I always like this layout of like a little discovery campaign where, you have the broad and the phrase match as the ad group. And then you match the exact same keywords in both ad groups. So if you have 10 keywords that you're targeting in the broad match campaign, then you do our ad group, then you would just copy that and paste that into the phrase match. And so that would be, like a fresh, clean start. So now you've eliminated a lot of these keywords that potentially have been draining budget and have not done nothing for you. So that would be step one. So now you've really like optimized, right? You've honed in on some good keywords. And then from there, all I could say is that now you could be actively monitoring a little better, a little more efficiently, more effectively, and it's not going to drive you too crazy. So I think that would be my tips. I don't know if you have some extra tips on that, Cole.
No, I think that was pretty good. I mean, I would just say it's good that you're optimizing it every 3 days and everything. Just make sure you give it enough time for the word to give you some data. You want to see how many clicks it's gotten, what your spend has. You don't want to turn off anything before you really have given it a chance to perform and let you know if it's going to be a good word or not. But yeah, keep an eye on it. Use those decreasing bids to your advantage. If you need to, you can pause the word or add it to negative if it's performing bad enough. And just keeping your eye on that. Obviously, the good words that you're seeing that are doing well, you can continue to increase the bid, and that's going to help you with your ACoS, really focusing your spending on those good words versus the words that aren't doing well or the words that you're kind of in the testing phase. But it's kind of one of those things where your ACoS should probably improve over time. Right when you launch a campaign, it's a lot of those words are going to be in the testing phase, and you don't have data yet to tell you whether they're going to be good or not. So as you optimize it, as you get those words out, you should start to see that ACoS come down and be a bit more optimized for you.
Awesome. So looks like this will be the last question that was submitted, and we're about out of time. So I'll answer this question as well. It comes from Rob, and Rob's asking, what's a good tacos? I personally like steak tacos. Let's get
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
No, we'll keep it serious, Rob. So what's a good tacos percentage with a product with 30% profit margin? So tacos is total advertising cost of sales. We're familiar with ACoS, advertising cost of sale. Your total advertising cost of sale what that does is it incorporates not only your paid advertising, but your organic. So it's a better metric than ACOS. ACOS is just your pay on the paid side. What is your paid campaigns generating for you? But by using Taco's total advertising cost of sale, you're actually incorporating organic sales as well. So this is a true measurement of how your campaigns are operating. The typically the percentage should be lower than ACOS, because if you think about it, now we're bundling in organic sales. So now we have more sales incorporated in that number. So your percentage should be improved upon it should be improved upon the ACOS, right? An improvement on the ACOS. So we talk about 20% being a target with ACOS. I would still venture to say under 20%, because that's kind of like the mark. 20%. You don't want if you're at 100%, you're basically spending 100% just for a sale, so that's like really bad. But in the early days, like your ACOS could be there because you're advertising for the first time, you're promoting your product. That's a little investment. As time goes on, as we talked about some of these optimization strategies, as time goes on, that number should be coming down. So it doesn't really necessarily impact profit. It's not like we're not looking at profit margin. What we really want to look at is that the advertising dollars are really being effective, and that they're like under 20%. That's like the ideal threshold that I would suggest.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a perfect Tacos percentage. It varies on a lot of things. The price, the product, what you're trying to do with it, profit maximization, if it's a new product. So I don't know if I can really put an exact percentage on it. I know I like to typically target like a 10 to 12% range, but I don't know if that really helps anyone, because it totally varies on the product and everything like that. So see what works best for you, and really kind of what helps you maximize your profit based off of your situation.
Yeah, and like I said, it depends on the stage that you're at, right? So if you're just in a launch, like you're just launching, then of course that's going to be higher. And like the more your product matures, the more you've been on the market, then definitely that should be on the lower end now. And if not, then okay, yes, you could optimize your campaigns. I'm going to go a little deeper. Yes, you can optimize your campaigns, but what directly impacts your PPC is your listing. So you need to optimize your listing. Your listing needs to be almost like they need to be in sync, one and the same. Like what customers are searching for on the PPC side of things is ultimately dictating what your listing should appeal to, and what it should incorporate in the listing. So look at PPC as the North Star now, because you're running PPC. It's the North Star of dictating what your customers truly want. And so now cater to them. And you might have to retweak your listing, because before, when you first started, you started with, we all start with Jungle Scout, Keyword Scout. We're taking a educated guess, right? It's an educated guess, but it's a guess nonetheless. And then the next phase is PPC is now telling us hard data, like hard data that like Amazon is providing us because of actual searches that customers have made. So point A is like, when we're starting, we rely on Keyword Scout because we really don't know our target audience well yet. We're trying to hone in on them. PPC helps us hone in on them. So now start taking that and applying it to your listing, and make sure like they're married together and that they work well together. That whole structure that you create there. So yep, that would be it. And tacos. I love Taco Tuesday. Yeah. All right, everyone. It's been awesome. We added a little more time on the end because we did start a little later today, but we got a full hour in, and it looks like we have no more questions being submitted. So Cole, thanks for joining me again, and look forward to you joining us in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been fun. We had a lot of good questions today. Saw some familiar faces in the chat too. So yeah, happy to be here and looking forward to joining you again.
All right, awesome. So with that, everyone, we will see you all next week. Tune in next Thursday at 1 p.m. Just remember to drop those questions early on so that we can start tackling those. And feel free to rewatch this on in your announcement section. So take care.